There is a slot running the full length of your roof peak. You paid to have it installed. It has a mesh screen, a cap, and a profile that matches your shingles exactly. It moves 0 cubic feet per minute of air, not because it is broken, not because it is the wrong size, because there is nothing feeding it from below, and a ridge vent with no intake is not a ventilation system. It is a decoration with a warranty. This is the hidden detail that nobody mentions when they sell you the ridge vent. This is part of a series on the physics of shelter. If you want the rest, subscribe now, because the next video covers 2 identical houses on the same street with a 14-degree Fahrenheit temperature difference in August and the single variable that explains it. Block 1. The system. Attic ventilation works by convection. Hot air rises. If there is an opening at the peak of the roof, that hot air can exit, but hot air rising through an opening does not pull itself out. It is pushed out by cooler, denser air entering from below. That intake has a name: soffit vent. The perforated panels or strips along the underside of the overhang at the lowest edge of the roof. The intake and the exhaust work together. They are not 2 independent features. They are one system. Remove either half and you have removed the whole. The ridge vent at the top is the exhaust. The soffit vents along the eaves are the intake. Air enters at the soffit, warms as it crosses the attic floor, rises and exits through the ridge. This creates a continuous flow driven by a temperature difference alone. No fan required. This is not a new idea. The Federal Housing Administration codified minimum attic ventilation ratios in 1942, requiring 1 square foot of net free ventilation area for every 150 square feet of attic floor. That ratio assumed balanced intake and exhaust. The entire standard depends on both openings being functional. Block 2. The error. Walk to any eave of your house and look up. If you see solid soffit panels with no perforations, your attic has no intake. If you see perforated panels but you sprayed insulation into the attic a few years ago, those panels may be blocked from inside. If you see batt insulation that runs all the way to the eave without a channel to the soffit, same problem. The most common failure mode is not the soffit vent being absent. It is the soffit vent being covered by insulation from the inside. When insulation is added to an attic, it is pushed into the corners to maximize coverage. The corners are exactly where the soffit vent is. The insulation covers the opening. The opening still exists outside. The screen is still there. But the path from soffit to attic interior is now packed with fiberglass or cellulose. The ridge vent is now sealed. Not visibly, not obviously. From the outside, everything looks correct. The ridge cap is there. The soffit panel has holes. The inspection checklist has check marks. But inside the attic, the temperature in July reaches 150 degrees Fahrenheit, 65 Celsius, and the ridge vent produces 0 airflow. 0. Not reduced. 0. Convection requires a pressure differential between intake and exhaust. If the intake is sealed, pressure equalizes immediately, and flow stops entirely. Block 3. The physics. The stack effect in an attic works because hot air is less dense than cool air. At 130 degrees Fahrenheit, 54 Celsius, inside an attic, the air pressure at the ridge is slightly lower than ambient outside pressure at the same height. At the soffit, outside air at 90 degrees, 32 Celsius, is denser and at higher pressure than the interior. This pressure difference, even a few hundredths of an inch of water column, is enough to drive airflow through the system when both openings are clear. Flow rates in a properly balanced system run between 50 and 200 cubic feet per minute in summer conditions, depending on attic size and temperature differential. When the soffit is blocked, pressure inside the attic rises to match outside pressure. There is no longer a differential. Flow stops. The ridge vent does not malfunction. It simply has no reason to function. Block 4. The culprit. The installer who put in your ridge vent did not check your soffit vents. The company that sold you ridge vent installation as a service did not include soffit vent inspection or clearance in the scope of work. The brochure that listed the benefits of ridge ventilation did not mention that those benefits require a functional intake to exist. This is not incompetence at the individual level. It is a systematic omission. Ridge vent installation is a roofing job. Soffit vent clearance is an insulation job. The two trades do not coordinate. The homeowner buys a roofing improvement and gets a roofing improvement, installed correctly in isolation, with no connection to the building system it was supposed to complete. The ridge vent functions. The system does not. Block 5. The fix. Step 1. Confirm your soffit vent status. Go into the attic. Look toward the eaves. You should see daylight, a thin, bright line along the bottom of the rafter bays all the way around the perimeter. If you see darkness, the path is blocked. Step 2. Install baffles. Rafter baffles, also called ventilation channels or AccuVent, are rigid cardboard or foam channels that staple between the rafters and create a dedicated airway from soffit to attic airspace. They keep insulation away from the soffit vent, regardless of how much insulation is added later. They cost about 40 cents per linear foot. For a standard cabin, the total material cost is under $30. Step 3. Verify net-free area. The net-free ventilation area of your soffit vents must be at least equal to the net-free area of your ridge vent. If your soffit is undersized, you will have reduced flow, not zero, but reduced. Add perforated soffit panels or increase the number of circular soffit vent inserts until the ratio is balanced. The balanced ratio you are targeting is 1:1, intake area to exhaust area. Some building scientists prefer a slight excess on the intake side, up to 60% intake and 40% exhaust, to ensure positive pressure keeps moisture out of the ridge cap during rain events. The ridge vent on your roof is not the expensive part of this fix. The baffles that cost 40 cents each are. Not because the baffles are hard to install, because installing them requires going into the attic, pushing insulation aside, and doing work that is invisible from outside. The expensive part of proper attic ventilation has always been the part you cannot see from the ground. That is also the part nobody checks. Before you add another exhaust vent to a non-functioning system, go to the eave. Look up. Find the soffit panels. Then go into the attic and look toward the same location from inside. If those two views do not connect with daylight, you have found the problem. It is not at the ridge. It was never at the ridge. That ridge vent running the full length of your roof peak is still there, same as the day it was installed. It looks correct. It has the right mesh, the right profile, the right warranty, and it has moved 0 cubic feet of air since the insulation crew came through and sealed the other half of the system it depends on. The fix was always there. You just couldn't see it. What does your soffit look like from inside the attic right now? Tell me in the comments whether you can see daylight or darkness at the eave line.